Good evening, everybody. Let me set my Instagram. There we go. All right, so we're live. Guess what? I didn't do a pre-show. I didn't run my intro that I normally run. And I just kind of skipped that part tonight. So hopefully we got everybody that can join. Let me fix the screen over here real quick. All right, there we go. All right, so can you guys hear me okay? Just wanted to make sure that that's good. So hopefully you can hear me okay. So checking that. So I'm going to give everybody a minute to just kind of get here for a minute. All right, excellent. Thank you, Paul. Excellent. All right. Excellent. All right, good. Well, at least Instagram can hear me good. There's a delay. I mean, there's like a serious delay when it comes to Facebook, though, when I'm doing the Facebook Live. But other than that, all right, well, let me just give everybody a minute. But hey, Malcolm, how are you? So tonight we're going to talk about why are Defenders so expensive. I mean, we're not just why are they so expensive, but why is there such a large price discrepancy? So that's what we'll talk about tonight. But before I get into that, I'd like to hear from you guys. Who's new? Who's first time here for our Sunday live at 6:15 p.m.? So just tell me that. Who's here for the first time? Who's the new individual? So we got people coming in from Brazil. That's cool. Awesome. And if you can't see what I'm doing, you see I'm moving my arms. I'm petting Leo. That's what's going on. So on Instagram, you can see it, but I don't think you guys on Facebook can see it. So I'm not doing anything weird. All right. All right, good. Glenn's new. At least I believe that's your name, Glenn. Newbie. Oh, excellent. Excellent. First time, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Awesome. So all over tonight. New here. All right. Looks like Mark's new. New from the UK. Excellent. First time Jersey. I'm going to take that as New Jersey here in the States. Excellent. New South Dakota for Steve. Thank you, Steve. Awesome. So I got the puppies tonight. I'm the babysitter. Italy. Excellent. From Italy. Wisconsin. Hey, Gregory. I didn't know you were in Wisconsin. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I knew you were in Wisconsin. Turkey. Oh, first time. Oh, Turkey's a beautiful area. I've been there. When I went to Greece, and we did Athens, and we did all the islands and everything else, and I went to Turkey. That was a fabulous time. So awesome. So who else is new here? Where are you guys from? So, all right. So we still have people coming in. It's 6:18, so we've been only going for 3 minutes here. Canada. Awesome. Toronto, beautiful area. Not too far for me. It's about 7 hours. So I think 6-7 hours, being that I'm pretty close to Albany. Connecticut. Love Connecticut. North Arizona. That's cool. There's a lot of beautiful areas that I just wish we could. Oh, Netherlands, Rotterdam, Netherlands. That's awesome. Cool. Sudan. That's interesting. First time. Awesome. Okay. So another Canada. Love Canada. Boston. Love it. So talking about Defenders. I mean, there's so many various price discrepancies and they're so expensive. So I'm definitely going to talk about that tonight. And if you're shopping for a Defender, maybe I can give you some pointers, some ideas, really some suggestions of what to look for. I'm not saying you have to buy your Defender from me, that I need to do a bespoke restoration for you. Baja California, a lovely area. You might find a Defender that's local. So I'm going to tell you what to look for to make sure that you don't buy something that you won't be happy with. In fact, just recently, recently, it was around Christmas time. Individual that I talked to on Instagram, and we go back and forth and stuff, and he told me that his wife surprised him with a Defender, and then you know, then he starts getting into it and he finds out that it's not quite what he was looking for, a little disappointed. But let me tell you this. Let me just put it this way. It does not matter if you buy a right-hand drive or if you have the left-hand drive. It does not matter if you get a Defender that has rust on it. It does not matter if it's not all shiny and new. It just doesn't matter. You get what you can afford, or not necessarily afford, but you get what makes you happy. Get what you can justify when it comes to buying a Defender. Because it's not about having this vehicle that's all flashy, that's competing with the Joneses. It's really about the experience. It's about the vehicle and what the vehicle can do for you. It's about the feeling that you have when you get in the vehicle and you go for a drive, and that you're void of all of the various technology. And I know a lot of times we start talking about a bespoke Defender and we start saying, oh, does it have power windows? Does it have central door locks? Does it have massaging seats? Does it have air conditioning seats? Does it have Apple CarPlay? Does it? And I mean, those are all great options to have. And we've been spoiled to have those options. I mean, even if you buy one of the least expensive new vehicles out there, it has a lot of technology in it. And that's really not what the Defender, in my opinion, this is purely my opinion, the Defender is not about that. The Defender is about creating an experience. It's about being with your loved one or loved ones. It's about being with your dogs. It's about just getting out and experiencing and slowing down and just enjoying your life and enjoying the opportunities and the possibilities that you have and just having fun. So again, it doesn't matter if you're driving a Santana. It doesn't matter if you're driving a right-hand drive. It just really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to leave it with that. But as you're shopping or as you're looking or as you're dreaming and you're seeing all of the various prices, that's what I'm going to explain to you tonight. So here's the first thing. And if you guys have any questions, by all means, ask your questions. More than happy to answer it. But you're on eBay and you're seeing all prices anywhere from, let's say in the 20s on up to over 250,000. And you're thinking, why? Why is this? And I don't want you to think that, just because a Defender is $200,000, I have Defenders that are close to $200,000 on the website. Don't think somebody's trying to take advantage of you. That's not really what it is. They do justify the price. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about that's important, something that you should really, I don't know if you should really, but something to pay attention to, something to be aware of, is what's going on right now in the UK, and that's Brexit. So Brexit is where the UK's pulled out of the EU, and just read about it. But what's happening is where if you're buying a Defender and you're buying a Defender, let's say, for example, that your shop, like our shop is in England, and we buy a Defender and we buy it in Poland, and then we import it into England, into the UK to be able to do the restoration, there's going to be more taxes that are involved with that. So that just the taxes to come from Poland into the UK, more. Italy into the UK, more. France, more. So those are all kinds of, things to be aware of just because of Brexit. And if you haven't read about Brexit, just read about it and you'll understand. So here's what's going to happen. And we know this for sure because we have several vehicles abroad right now. And when I say abroad, we've got some vehicles in Sweden, Poland, Italy, and France that we're trying to get to the shop in England. But we just kind of put that on hold right now because there's all of this additional paperwork to be able to do the export out of that country and the import into England. And it's just a complete mess. So if we try to export it out of the country and import it into England right now, and no one really knows what to do or what the process is, our truck could end up sitting at the border for weeks, months, costing us storage fees and inflating the price of the truck. So, essentially we have to pass that cost on when we actually do the restoration. So Brexit is a serious concern. And what we do know is the price of Defenders are going to go up. They're going to continue to climb, and they're going to climb probably thousands of pounds. And when you say thousands of pounds, that's a lot of money when you start talking about the Canadian dollar or the US dollar, because one US dollar is like $1.38 versus one British pound. So when you get into $10,000 or 10,000 pounds, well, you add another almost $4,000 to the cost of that vehicle. So now let's say that vehicle's 30,000 pounds. Well, you just added another $12,000. So 30,000 pounds is like 42,000 US dollars, meaning that the price is going to continue to go up. So if you're thinking about getting a Defender, you're possibly too late. You might want to wait until Brexit starts to calm down. So that's the first thing of why you're going to see prices go up. Defender prices, though, have been going up of an average of around 15 to 20% a year. So the value of them's going up, and which is really amazing because, what type of vehicle can you buy? Where can you just can't. You can't go to a dealership and buy a new car or a used car and expect that vehicle to go up in value. We all know that a car is a depreciating asset, that you lose money on it. But a Defender is actually an appreciating asset, so you actually get more money on it. It's kind of like buying a, Leica lens or something like that. So around 20%. And one of the things that drives that is, especially in the States, is that there's a few different publications, and the publications will say, hey, here's the top 10 vehicles to purchase as an investment. So believe it or not, there are vehicles out there that people buy as an investment to hold their money instead of doing the stock market. Land Rover Defender would be one. A Ford GT would be another one. A Pagani. And if you don't know what a Pagani is, it's a really cool car. Pagani. Pagani's really cool. But it goes up in value. And McLaren goes down in value unless it's a P1. A Ferrari, if you buy the Ferrari at the right price and the right time, then the Ferrari goes up in value. However, a Lamborghini depreciates because they make them as quick as they can make them and as many as they can make them. So if you buy a Lamborghini, you're going to lose money. Old Aston Martins have gone up in value, but you would have had to bought that Aston Martin years ago. When I say old, I'm talking about from really the 70s and the 80s and prior to that. The ones in the 90s are not going up in value, and I don't think that they will. Ford Broncos going up in value, but here's the thing. If you try to buy a Ford Bronco now, you're probably going to lose money because who knows how long that Ford Bronco is going to continue to go up in value. Jeep Wagoneers will probably go up in value a little bit. So these are all things to consider and think about, that appreciating asset Land Rover Defenders are going up in value. One of the factors of what's driving them in value is the supply and demand. They did build millions of Defenders. However, the majority of the Defenders that they built were right-hand drive. And the majority of people, especially us in the United States or in Canada, we want the left-hand drive, but they simply just didn't make as many left-hand drives. And the ones that they did make, left-hand drives, that's where we get them, Italy, France, Poland, because they're original left-hand drives. So there's fewer left-hand drives, and therefore less of a supply, but the demand is extremely high. And the demand has been high for a long, long time. So if you're just getting into Defenders and you're thinking, oh, I might be too late, I really don't think so. As the big push for our government in the United States to push that they're going to be non-dependent on fossil fuels by 2030, less than 10 years, there's still going to be fossil fuels, because you just have to think, what about the the trains that are moving stuff? What about the ships that are moving stuff? What about all of the other countries that depend on fuel, and they're not going to go out and buy an electric car because the US government says so. So there's still going to be fossil fuel diesel, but there's going to be more electric cars, which is going to make a Land Rover Defender much more desirable, because just a number of us grew up seeing the Defender on TV, and, going out and seeing people do their safari and with the lions and everything else. We grew up watching that. We grew up having the Hot Wheels that's a Defender. And now we get a little older, we have a little money in the bank, and we decide that, we want a Land Rover Defender. I can afford it. I deserve it. I'm going to get it. So that's going to drive it up. So the Defenders, though, they continued production until 2016. That last January of 2016 was when the last one rolled off of the lot. And, off of the assembly line, basically. So they've been around for a long time, but the US government and the Canadian government is helping drive the cost. And then of the Defenders, the value going up. They're helping increase that value, that cost of the Defenders. And how they're doing that is, in the United States, that Land Rover Defender has to be 25 years old or older. In Canada, it has to be 15 years old or older. So just kind of common sense, think about that for a moment, that if it has to be 25 years older, and it has to, and we want left-hand drive, how many are you going to find that's 25 years old that's not a rust bucket? Because in Europe, a Land Rover Defender, quite simply, was designed for a farmer. It's a farm truck. It's a truck. It's designed as an affordable vehicle for people to do work in. They're ambulances, they're tow trucks, they're police cars, or police vehicles. They're used for Anyway, people use them to work. So they don't take care of them. They don't baby them like we do. So they're really beat up, they're rusted, they're falling apart. 25 years is a long time. And then Canada, 15 years is a long time, meaning that they just don't take care of them. Therefore, it brings the supply down even more. So it's the government that's helping drive that, which is a good thing, because you buy it, now you've got something that's going to continue to be at least worth what you paid for it. But probably the chances are it's going to be more than what you paid for it. So if you were to buy a Defender, 10 years ago, it's worth a lot more. If you were to buy it 5 years ago, it's worth a lot more. So Owen just asked, he goes, so why are we so crazy enough to spend so much money on them? If you have an answer, I'll tell my wife. It's really simple. The reason that we spend so much money on them is because we think they're really cool. We think they're cool. And honestly, if you just have to look at the values of what's going on. If you were to look back and look at the value of a Defender, of what it was 5 years ago and what it is now, you can justify it. We work hard. We work hard for our money. We want to spoil ourselves. We want to have some fun, some luxuries. And, if you're a car guy or gal and you buy that vehicle, if you go out and buy a Corvette because you think it's cool, it's going to go down in value. That's all there is to it. It's going to lose money. So it really is, truly, yes, Owen, it really is an investment. Because anytime you can buy something and drive it and enjoy it, or buy something and use it, play with it, have it, own it, and then when you get tired of it, sell it and get your money out of it, why not? What are you going to do? You're going to put the money in the stock market? And who knows what's going to happen with the stock market? Are you going to put it, where are you going to put that money? Are you going to put that money into real estate? When our government, and not talking about politics, but, in New York, our governor is saying, hey, it's no problem. We're giving you the stimulus checks, but you don't have to pay your rent. So are you going to buy investment properties? I know I got out of mine, and I got out of mine just in time for that very reason, is because our government's telling people don't pay your rent. So where are you going to put your money that it's going to increase in value? Are you going to buy some gold? I mean, come on. It's not going to be a whole lot of fun to try to, how can you have fun with gold? All right. But anyway, so Defenders are truly going up in value, but the reason is supply. The second reason is why are they so expensive? And it's, if you're looking at a Defender and it's expensive, you have to think back and say, well, why? And why are the other ones so cheap? And the reason the other ones are so cheap is, one, and here it is. Maybe you guys want to write this down. If you don't have a notepad, maybe you should get a notepad. If you're thinking about buying a Defender, get a notepad, because I'm going to give you some things to look for. So you're looking at a Defender and it's cheap. In fact, I've got a friend in South Carolina that's got a neighbor that just bought a Defender, and he did all the imported it in, which he found out that's not as easy as he thought it was going to be. But he imported it in sight unseen, other than some pictures that showed up, and it's leaking oil like a mad machine. So what is the condition? If it's cheap, there's a reason it's cheap. And the first thing could be the mechanical. What type of motor does it have in it? So again, supply and demand. Yeah, you can get an inexpensive Defender with a motor like a 19J motor. A 19J is a diesel motor without a turbo that really is, the parts are expensive. It's hard to maintain. It does not get, it does not get longevity to it. It's a pretty rough motor. But if you did buy a Defender with a 19J and it's leaking oil, well, fix that oil leak, drive it, and enjoy it, and don't worry about it. But if you are in the market, just know what you're getting into. So what motor does it have in it? That can determine the price of the truck. The biggest thing that people are really unaware of is the rust. That I've seen it many a times. In fact, there's a friend on Instagram, and he was getting ready to buy a Defender, and he was going to pay like $85,000 for it. And he messaged me about it. What do you think? And I'm like, oh, it looks like it's got rust. And there were some other things that I didn't really care for it about. I mean, it just looked like that they took 25 different vehicles and put this vehicle together. And the 25 different vehicles were not all Defenders. It had parts from a Land Rover. It had parts from Chevy. It had parts from Chrysler. It had parts from everything. But if the price was right, if it wasn't $85,000 and it was more like $25,000, and he bought it and it actually ran, and okay, fine. That's great. You can have fun with it. That's what it's all about. But you have to watch out for the rust. And that's the thing, that these trucks, and I mean, let's be honest, when Land Rover built the Defenders, they really didn't put a lot of thought into it. Let's just be honest. They made a really great off-road vehicle, a really great vehicle for a farmer to haul his sheep or haul grain or haul lumber or whatever. They made a really great vehicle for that, but they did not make a luxury vehicle. They're not making Bentleys. They did not make Bentleys. Leave that to us. That's where we take it and make it better than when it was new, but it's still not a Bentley. But rust is an issue. It's an aluminum body, and they used a lot of different bolts in it that were steel that creates that galvanic corrosion. Also, the other point too is the doors on the Defenders, other Defenders other than ours, have a steel frame and aluminum skin, and that steel and aluminum touch, which creates galvanic corrosion, which creates the paint bubbling where it's corroding from the inside out. Doors are simple. Doors are inexpensive. I mean, you can get a door for a few $100s. Not a big deal. Easy to hang it on. It'd take you 15 minutes. Well, let's say an hour to hang it. So that's simple. But whenever your bulkhead starts to rust, now you have some problems. That's a big fix. But there's people on eBay that are selling these Defenders, and you're seeing them on there for $50,000 because they paid $10,000 for it because they bought it somewhere like Brazil. or somewhere, and it's rusty. And so what they did is they sanded it down, and then they swapped some Bondo over the top of it to cover, sanded the paint bubbling. You ran a steel, a grinder, a wire brush over it, got the paint bubbling off, filled it with some Bondo, and sprayed it with some paint. We call that putting lipstick on a pig. So you got a really shiny, pretty paint job, but that shiny paint job, they didn't use fixer, they didn't prime it very well, they didn't do the preparation, but really what they did is they just sprayed some paint over a bunch of warts. And those warts are going to come back within a year to 2 years. So you go out, you buy this $50,000 Defender, you're excited, and now all of a sudden your warts start popping out, your paint looks bad, you're discouraged, you're upset, and then you go on Facebook and you comment on my stuff and you say, oh, I would never pay that much for it, it's a rust bucket. Well, no, there's a difference, guys. Because that Defender wasn't prepped properly and you paid entirely too much for it. So that's why the price difference. When you're looking at, a Defender that's $130,000, $150,000, was there a lot of work put into it to prep it and get the body set up properly? So that's something to consider, is what all's been done. So now when we get into the other Defenders that are $150,000, $170,000, now you have to start thinking about the nickels and dimes. And what I mean by that is if it's a full restored, truly restored Defender, that everything was restored, then yeah, value adds up. I mean, look at the white one that's sitting behind me right now. So just the tire, just that one tire hanging off the back was $860, that one tire. So $860 times 5. Now how much money is in this Defender? And then the wheel that tire is wrapped on, the wheel's $470 times 5. And now the tire carrier the thing's hanging off of is like $500. And then you continue on. The window where you can see the rear window, those 2 rear windows, $150. The LED lights that are on it, $500. Just the Land Rover badge itself is $60. So, and then the NAS bumper that's hanging off the back, that's another $700. So you just start adding up all of the parts of a nice Defender, something that's been restored properly, and those parts start to really add up. I mean, and those are the expensive parts. I mean, but there's the less expensive parts that you talk about, for example, just a set of hoses on a Land Rover Defender. If you do the silicone hoses, you have $500 or $600 just in the hoses for the radiator. So that's why you see the prices and just a varying degree of prices. There's a lot of things that can go into it that you're probably not even considering about the price of the Defenders. Because yes, you can buy one for $30,000 that's a right-hand drive, or you can buy a left-hand drive for $50,000, but don't expect it to be a luxury car. Don't expect you can get in it and drive it and not have to do anything to it. You are going to have to maintain it. I mean, you buy one for $50,000 and it has, the original axles, which the axles in the Defenders are known to be a little weak. They don't have as many splines. And you break an axle, don't whine. It's 25 years old. And I don't care what car you buy. If it's 25 years old, you are going to have problems. That's all there is to it. But if you buy a car that's 25 years old and you go through it completely and you replace every last little part and you replace it with new parts, then you're not going to have the problems that you would have if it was the 25-year-old original vehicle. So that's why there's such a wide variance of prices in Defenders. The supply, the demand, does it have rust? Is it a lipstick covered with, a pig covered in lipstick? what all went into it. Is it a true British Defender, or is it from Turkey? If it's a Turkish Defender, you're going to get it for less. But again, like I said in the beginning, don't worry about it. If you bought it cheap and it runs and you have to do a little bit of work, just enjoy it. Have fun with it. That's all that matters. But I mean, if you're the type and you have the means to get one that's more expensive, then just do your homework and know what you're getting. So here's another thing too that I get asked a lot of times. Well, Paul, if I buy this Defender, does that mean I really need to park it? Because I shouldn't put many miles on it if I want it to go up in value. And the answer is no. Drive the wheels off of it. That's what's beautiful about a Defender. You don't have to watch the miles. It's not like a Ferrari that you buy a Ferrari as an investment and then you can't drive the thing. Because the individuals that are buying the Defender afterwards, they don't care how many miles are on it. And the fact is, to buy a 300 TDI motor, which is a bulletproof motor, you've got about $3,700 to buy a crate motor, to buy a short block, which means it's the motor without the head, is about $3,500. That's for a motor. And then you can get, somebody to put the motor in for you. If you can't do it yourself, you probably got another $1,000 in it to put a motor in. So people don't care about the mileage. These trucks will go for, on a 300 TDI, will go for 500,000 miles with minimal work. I mean, you'll have to replace the timing belt, which is on the front of the motor, really easy to get to. It's like a 2-hour job. If you haven't done the thicker head gasket and a nicer head, you'll blow some head gaskets. Not the end of the world. It's a 5-hour job, not a big deal. So get it, drive it, and don't worry about babying it. Just have fun with it. Just make sure you watch out for the rust, that you do everything you need to do to get, to keep the frame from rusting, like Waxall treatment or something like that. Anytime you see rust coming up, get rid of it. Spray some paint over it so it doesn't spread, because it is like cancer. But if the Defender was prepped properly, like what we do to ours, where we actually go through the frame and we do a steam clean to the frame, and then we do a sandblast, and we do an etch primer, and then a primer, and then an epoxy, it's not going to rust. Same thing with the bodies. If you paint the backside, paint the edges, paint the front side, cover it with an epoxy paint, it's not going to have that galvanic corrosion. You get rid of all the bolts that are bad, you're not going to have that problem. So these are all things to consider. And I hope I'm not rambling. I hope I'm helping you guys understand why is there such a difference in the prices of a Defender. And it's, what did you start with? If the person that's selling you the Defender started with a rust bucket and threw some paint over, threw some Bondo and some paint over it, and they're trying to sell it to you at a good deal, well, there's a reason. If it's too good to be true, you know the saying, and that's a fact, that's true. So that's why there's such a difference. There's also a difference in the difference of the prices, and how rare is it? And what I mean by that rare, for example, like my D110 double cab Hayrod, that's an extremely rare vehicle, but you will see double cabs, and double cab is the vehicle that was used in Spectre, in James Bond Spectre. There's double cabs that are not authentic double cabs. In other words, it's just a fabrication of parts that's thrown on. It's not a true British double cab. They actually have them in Turkey too. And they're less expensive because it's not the true authentic double cab. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's not. It's not that it's bad. It's just that's what will demand the price and the difference in the pricing. So, NAS. So let's talk about that. North American spec. So a North American spec, it's to just kind of roll the clock back and think about what happened, that the Defender was not available. And on a previous, live, we talked about when did Land Rover become a Defender, but the North American spec Defender came into the United States in 1995. But in 1995, you roll the clock back, and what I'm saying is that the 25-year-old rule. So if you said, well, I wanted to bring a Defender in 25 years older than 1995, it was not possible. They didn't make them then. So U.S. had the 1995 North American spec. They skipped 96, came back in 97. That's for the D90. And then in 97, they brought the D110. So those trucks were super expensive because you couldn't legally bring a Defender in that was only a couple years old. So that, again, supply, demand. That's what drove the cost. That's why they were so expensive. So if you look at the prices of the North American spec and how they were so expensive for quite a while, and they continued, and that's why they were so expensive, supply and demand. But now what's happening, 25 years later, we're bringing in Land Rover Defenders that are 1996 because it's 25 years old. So the North American spec was an inflated price because of supply and demand at that time. And you've seen the price of the North American spec come down to a more reasonable level. So North American spec and a rest of the world, an ROW Defender, that's what I do, is ROW Defenders. The prices are actually pretty comparable, I would say. There's still some North American specs are a little expensive, but the rest of world Defenders have increased. They're a little bit over the NAS, and they're going to continue to go over the NAS because NAS, a number of them had the automatic transmission and they had the gasoline motor. The gasoline motor is not as desirable as the diesel motor, even though a lot of individuals, I don't know if I want diesel. That's the more desirable motor. And it's just what people want. And not only in the United States do people want the diesel motor, but they want that diesel motor in Europe because diesel is more of a common fuel than gasoline. And you can get diesel regardless of where you travel throughout the world. Diesel is there because that's what's powering the vehicles throughout the world is diesel. So diesel also has more low-end torque. The cost of ownership is lower. Maintenance is easier because you don't have spark plug wires. You don't have a carburetor. You don't have any of that. So the North American spec with the gasoline motor, and then so it's just, you're going to see the rest of the world ones continue to go up. North American spec, don't pay the extra money for it. So there's what that is. Another reason that you see a difference in the price in the US or Canada is the import and the export. So bringing a vehicle into the United States or bringing a vehicle into Canada is not the easiest process. And a lot of people think, oh, it's easy. I see what you're selling those for. I get so frustrated with those morons. Oh, I'm going to go buy me a Defender and I'm going to buy 10 of them and I'm going to sell them for what you're selling them. Well, yeah, good luck, dude, because it won't be built like one of ours. But anyway, I won't even get into that. But importing one in fact, I've got a friend that he bought a 1997 model, and this was about, 3-4 years ago. Bought a 1997 model, and he's going to import it into the U.S., not knowing. So anyway, it gets to the border, and the Border Patrol say, nope, it's not coming into the United States. So that 1997 D110 sat at the border. And it was a right-hand drive on top of that. So he's paying storage fees. The reason it could not get in, you guessed it, it was not 25 years old, so he could not get it into the U.S. It sat at the border while he tried to find somebody to buy it because the person he bought it from didn't bother to tell him, hey, you think you're going to import that into the U.S.? It's not going to happen. It has to be 25 years old. In Canada, it has to be 15 years old. So what that allows you to do, though, if it's 25 years old for US or 15 for Canada, and you import it in, is you don't have to worry about airbags. You don't have to worry about smog, unless it's California, that is. But it's a grandfather clause. So that vehicle does not have to live up to the expectations because it's considerably a classic vehicle, 25 years old, and that's what it is. But here's the thing, and I say a big but. If you find a Land Rover Defender and it has got a little bit of a different spec, that was not actually a spec that could have possibly been sold in Canada or the US, then you will not get it into the US. So that's something to be concerned about. So I work through an export and an import brokerage because it's a tremendous amount of paperwork. And they're doing the paperwork and they ensure that the vehicle, well, I don't say they insure, but between what they know and the thousands of vehicles they've imported and what we know, then we know that we will get that vehicle into the US. Years ago, not that many years ago, when I first tried to do it, not once, but twice, and it was a nightmare, and it cost me a lot more than it would have cost me because I had no idea what I was doing to be able to get it into the US. It's a lot of paperwork. You have to pay export tax out of the country it's coming out of. You have to pay an import tax, and then you have to pay all the different borders fees. It's a lot of, it can run into the thousands, or I mean, not say can, it does. It runs into the thousands to import a vehicle into the US or import it into Canada. So, hence another reason that Defenders are so expensive when you're looking at them in Canada or the US, because somebody's gone through all that process. So if you're on eBay and you see somebody that's trying to sell a Defender really cheap, and it's in Spain or it's in France or it's in Italy or wherever, it's in Turkey, and they say, hey, go ahead and pay for this Defender on eBay, and then we'll go ahead and ship it, and you have to worry about the import and export, good luck. I'm not saying it can't be done. It can definitely be done. I mean, because there's people on eBay that are selling them like that over and over, whether it's a Defender, a Range Rover, whatever vehicle. But just know what you're getting into. And if you're doing this on a shoestring budget that you don't really have the extra money, I would highly recommend you don't do it, because you could run into a problem where it's actually at the border and you have to now hire an export company and an import company and possibly even an attorney to get it into the country. So if you don't have the extra cash, in case that happens, don't do it, because that savings that you made on that Defender, that you only paid $25,000 for it, and you think you're going to have a $60,000 truck, you could end up paying another $10,000 to $15,000 of just trying to get it into the country. So I'm going to stop with that. There was other thoughts I had too, but I wanted to see, do you guys have any questions? Because I've just been rambling. So there we go. All right, guys, come on. Questions. I haven't even taken a breath. I get excited about that, about the why are the values and why do they bring the prices that they bring. And it's amazing. It blows my mind of how the cost of the Defenders are going up so quickly. Somebody on Instagram saying they learned about it the hard way. Yeah, we have. It's true. Don't forget, I got to mention too, what about the, I just talked about the import and the export, the cost, the taxes and everything else. But if you find one in France, how do you get it to the vessel? How do you get it to the ship? You're going to have to pay somebody to get it to the ship, to be able to get it. So you've got transport fees. So you got to find a wrecker service to get it there. And keep in mind that a Land Rover Defender is actually in England, it's the #1 stolen vehicle. So you bought that truck, now you own it, and you're paying a transport company to transport it. There's a chance it could show up and being stripped, or there's a chance it might not show up because it got stolen, and you're in trouble. And you cannot insure it while it's actually out of the US or out of Canada. All right. So here's some questions. Rolling in. How many trucks have we done so far? We've done over 90. So we've done over 90 Defenders. Yeah, and then there's transport, like Steve said, plus there's transport fees, to the boat, and then there's transport fees. Then it goes into the port, whether it's Baltimore, New Jersey, whatever it is. So now you got transport fees there, and then transport fees to get it to your house. So there's a lot of what's going on. One of the questions is, what is the country that most left-hand drive defenders come from? We get them from Italy, Poland, and France. That's where we get them from. All right. Another question is, how long does it take for you to complete a custom restoration from start to finish? About 8 months is what it takes. Generally around 8 months, but there can be delays that are put in there for interior and stuff. All right, let me see. Any issues with fully insuring these vehicles? Any states limiting registration, like specific interest vehicle? No, it's once you actually have the vehicle in the U.S., it's easy to insure it. I insure mine through Geico, and my D110, I mean, the insurance on it's like $360, and on my D130 is like $410, and that's full coverage, by the way. So there you go. Another question is, what about their appreciation where they increase in value, right-hand drive versus left-hand drive? I don't see the right-hand drive. Right-hand drive does not increase in value like a left-hand drive. It's not at the same percentage. I see the right-hand drive, they might increase in value by 2 to 3%, maybe 5%. So they're going up, but not as much, definitely not as quickly. I mean, you see the left-hand drives going up like $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 in a short amount of time. I mean, just in the last 6 months, they've gone up about 10 grand. So yeah, it's in fact, even in the UK where, the roads, it's right-hand drive, a number of individuals, if they're collectors of vehicles, they prefer the left-hand drive because it has a wider appeal. So left-hand drive, if you're trying to buy something that's going to go up in value, left-hand drive is what you're going to have to go with. But if your budget only allows for a right-hand drive, get the right-hand drive, enjoy it, have fun. Just if you decide to go through Starbucks, make sure you have somebody with you so you can actually get your coffee. So anyway. Good question. So John asked, he said, what about the appreciation of Defenders that have had engine conversions? I've watched this and studied this a lot. So if it has an engine conversion, if thinking you want to put a Cummins diesel in it or a Corvette motor in it, don't expect it to appreciate. Don't expect to get your money out of it. You just won't. And a way to see what I'm talking about, go to eBay and look at the different Defenders that had the Corvette motor or had the Cummins diesel and see what they sold for. Or go to the website, Bring a Trailer, and see what the Defenders with a Cummins diesel or a Corvette motor and what they sold for. So if you want something that's going to continue to go up in value, you want to keep it as close to original spec as possible. And what I mean original spec, that doesn't mean that you can't have a fully restored like one of these. Our Defenders, we're seeing them continue to go up in value, and and what I mean by original spec is it has a diesel motor, it has the manual transmission in it, but everything's been optimized. And I don't know if optimized is the right word, but it's been modernized to be comfortable with heated seats, nice interior and all that. And you can do all of that and you won't reduce the value. You'll actually increase the value of the vehicle. So if you're fortunate enough to find a left-hand drive, don't be scared to put a new cylinder head on it, a new exhaust system, bigger wheels, bigger tires, lift it, jack it up, put a roll cage on it, put a roof rack on it. You can do all of that and it will continue to go up in value. That will increase the value. You will get your money out of that stuff. You definitely will. So you guys see the burgundy one, by the way? I just wanted to show that to you just real quick. There you go. Yeah. Oh, love that Monochino red. But anyway, so you can do that. Scott asked, What about the insurance part? Did he miss that? No, my 360 or $400 for the D130 full coverage is for the year. So that's right. You guys are talking about the white one. The white one is king. It was pretty interesting. So I had a visitor just yesterday. Boy, the weekend flew by. But I had a visitor yesterday, and he came in and he said, "Wow, let's see." Sorry. Okay. Anyway, he came in and he said, the pictures and the videos do not do these builds justice. He's just walking around, and he's under the car, and he's looking, popping the hood, looking at the doors, feeling the lines around the doors and down the hood. And he's like, wow, this is so much better than I ever imagined. And I've looked at a lot of builders. So he's looked at a lot of different builds, a lot of different Defenders, and he just went on and on. He was here with his wife. His wife was in the car with her mom, and he brings her in, and she's getting in the car, and they were just excited, and that just makes it worth it. For people to come in and see the Defenders in person here in the shop and talk about how awesome they are. So anyway, thank you guys. I really appreciate you talking about the white one and all that. So I appreciate it. All right. So what's my thoughts on X-Mod Defenders? I have a clean 1986. Are they potentially good investments? Well, a 1986 is not a Defender, but if it looks like a Defender, yeah, I mean, let me rephrase that. Let me say that again. A 1986, yeah, it's a Defender. It can be a Defender. It's not really technically a Defender, but if it looks cool, if you go to sell it, don't put the year on it. And I'm not being misleading, but don't put the year on it because a lot of people don't understand. And when people see the year, for example, like where I have a 1987 Defender, and people see the year and they're like, oh, I don't want it. And it's like, why? It's got 12,000 miles on it. It has a rebuilt motor. It was a frame off restoration. I don't want it. I don't want it. Why not? Because, and what's happening, Robert, what I'm trying to tell you is people think that, oh, I got to get the latest one. I got to get the latest one I can get, like a 1997 model is what I want. Well, you're not going to get a 97 unless you wait till next year. There is no difference in a 1997 or a 1987. There's no difference. There's no difference. There's no difference in a 1997, 1993, 1991. There's no difference in the way it looks. The motor can be different now. If it doesn't have a 300 TDI, that's a completely different story. But anyway, so there you go. All right. So insured for $400 a year at what value? It's valued at the NADA value. My D90 was valued at $130,000, and I did talk to the insurance company. I said, "Oh, I got a D110. It's more than a D90." And they said, "Oh yeah, well, we know that. So the value would be more. So my D110, I believe, is valued at Robert. I hope I made sense, but if you got a clean 1986, just drive the wheels off of it, buddy. Have fun with it." So anyway, so it is valued. I think my D110 is valued at like 160. So anyway, so there we go. All right, guys. So I hope I helped you in understanding that if that Defender is cheap, it's cheap for a reason. Don't think you're going to find a barn find. And because if it is a 1988 and it's cheap, there's probably rust. It's probably got a bad motor. It's probably got a bad transmission. It's probably got something wrong with it. But if it's cheap and you can afford it and you've got the time and you've got the tools, then get it. Get it and work on it a little bit at a time and enjoy it. It really just comes down to what is the price? What can you afford? And don't think it's a luxury car because it's not going to be. It's a good friend of mine refers to those type of Defenders like a rescue dog. And a rescue dog is, when you go to get a rescue dog, you know the rescue dog is going to have some issues, going to have some problems, but you love that rescue dog for what it is, for the happiness it brings you. And that's what a defender is going to do. If it's that bargain defender, it's going to be like the rescue dog. You're rescuing it. It's going to have some weird little quirks, but that's what makes it so much more attractive and adorable. So, all right, let me see. How do I find a trustworthy mechanic who can work on my 300 TDI? Make some phone calls and just, you can kind of tell. Call them and just talk to them. Say, hey, have you ever worked on the 300 TDI? And if they go, huh? Then it's probably not a good mechanic. But if to find a mechanic that will work on the 300 TDI, find a European car mechanic, somebody that works on the turbo diesel for the Mercedes or an Audi or a Zuzu or something like that. Just find that shop that looks like a hole in the wall where it's an old mechanic, old guy. And so anyway, all right, somebody just asked, do your 90s and 110 hold their value? No, they go up in value. So we've talked about that. They are going up in value. A D90, D110 goes up in value. So any questions, guys? I hope I answered all your questions. Let me make sure. Let me scroll down on Instagram. All right, so a lot of questions, some of them off topic, sorry. But anyway, all right, guys. If you have no more questions, it's a 7:12 p.m. I am going to go hang out with the wife. Are you getting hard to find? Oh, yeah. Steve asked, are they getting hard to find these days? So, yes. Boy, that creates a lot of stress for me. You had to ask me that question, didn't you? So Steve's asking, are the defenders getting hard to find? And yeah, they really are. So I get up around, wake up around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we start talking about the defenders and how can we find them and everything. Can you guys hear Leo snoring? He's snoring. Okay. So yes, they're getting extremely hard to find. Very hard to find. So the UK is in a complete lockdown, not like we know in the States. Oh, you had to point that out. I tune it out. I don't even hear him snore anymore. So anyway, you guys thought I was passing gas, didn't you? I'm not. That's Leo snoring. You should hear him at night. But the UK is completely locked down, and it's difficult because we can't get vehicles. No one's selling them because they're locked down and they don't want people coming to their home to get them. That's the first point. When we do buy them, we can't get them to the shop. So that's a problem. And they're just getting really hard to buy. And the demand just going up and up and up. So I do honestly believe if you watched the website, you've seen the prices of our trucks going up. In fact, we're doing another price increase of the trucks this upcoming week. They're going to go up some more. And if you look at the British pound, what the British pound has done, it's gone up again. So again, $1 is $1.38, and $1.38, and that's gone up. So every part that I buy, every truck that I buy, just know that's about 40 cents more is what it's going to cost. And then we can't get the trucks. So yeah, you're going to see our prices go up again this week. I would not be surprised at the way it's been going that our D90s will be priced at probably, I don't know, 150,000 by summer. Like this truck here, the white one is 128,000. this is going to be a $150,000 truck by summer, is what's happening. So, yeah, prices are going up. Let me see. Okay, good. Am I having a President's Day sale? Yeah, definitely. On the stuff on the store. Go buy a clock. Go buy a hat, guy. We got new hats. All right. Are all your builds from the UK? That's where we build them. We build them in England. And then all of our trucks do come from Italy, Poland, and France, and Sweden generally. All right. With that said, I'm going to call it quits because I'm starting to ramble. It's time to go into the house and hang out with my bride and take Leo and Lucy with me in that. Leo, you ready to go in the house? Leo, you want to go play with the cats? Leo, hey, Lucy. Lucy, come here, Lucy. Lucy. They're over there laying on the couch, guys. They're laying on the couch. They're sleeping. Leo's looking at me. Lucy raised up and laid her head back down. She's not snoring yet. Okay. With that, I'm signing off, guys. Thank you. If you have any questions, send me a private message. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye. So, goodbye to Instagram and goodbye to Facebook. See you guys.